If you really love me, she said, tilting her head with that soft smile she knew I couldn't resist, you'll let me have him as my best man. At first, I thought she was joking. I mean, who in their right mind asks their fiancé to let their ex stand next to them on their wedding day? But she wasn't kidding. Not even a little bit. She looked me straight in the eyes and said it again. I want Jason to be my best man. He's important to me. You have nothing to worry about. Now, I'm not the jealous type. At least I never thought I was. But Jason wasn't just an ex. He was the ex. The guy she dated for 4 years before me. The one her parents still invited to family dinners. The one whose toothbrush I accidentally found in her drawer 6 months into our relationship. Yeah, that Jason. I should have said no. I should have drawn the line. But instead I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, of course. Because I thought love meant sacrifice. I thought trust meant giving the benefit of the doubt, even when it burned a hole through your chest. And maybe deep down, I thought if I let her have this one ridiculous request, it would prove something, to her, to me, to everyone, that I wasn't insecure. That I was the bigger man. So I let it go. I let her plan the entire wedding with him practically glued to her side. She went dress shopping while he gave opinions. They picked the cake together. They coordinated color palettes. I'd show up to meetings and feel like the third wheel. And every time I asked her why it had to be him, she'd laugh it off like I was being paranoid. He's a friend. That's it. You trust me, right? But here's the thing, trust works both ways. And while she was planning a fairy tale wedding with her ex hanging over my shoulder, I was quietly making plans of my own. Silent. Strategic. And no one saw it coming. Especially not her. Everyone thought I was the pushover groom. The guy too soft to stand up for himself. The guy who'd smile through anything just to keep the peace. And for a while, I let them believe that. Because the best revenge doesn't come from screaming or arguing, it comes from silence. From letting someone dig their own grave and then handing them the shovel. So when the big day came, she was radiant. Dress perfectly tailored. Hair flawless. Jason standing proudly beside her, grinning like he'd won some secret game. But they had no idea what was waiting for them. She walked down that aisle with all eyes on her, clutching her bouquet like a trophy, probably thinking she had it all. What she didn't know was that the wedding venue had already been cancelled. And that wasn't even the worst part. Not by a long shot. You might be wondering how a wedding gets cancelled without the bride knowing. Well, when she handed off the planning to her best man, she assumed I was just tagging along for the ride. But what she didn't know was that while she was obsessing over floral arrangements and seating charts with Jason, I was quietly pulling strings behind the scenes. I wasn't reckless. I didn't call it off in some dramatic way that could be traced back to me. Instead, I spoke to the venue coordinator in private. We had a clause in the contract that allowed for cancellation with a notice period, and I gave that notice. Quietly. I even paid the cancellation fee in full. Why? Because I wanted everything to look perfect until the very last second. I wanted her to walk in expecting her dream wedding, only to find out she never really knew what was going on at all. But let me take a step back. This didn't all start with Jason being named best man. That was just the final straw. Things had been off for a while, only I kept brushing it under the rug. Like the time I found an old photo of them tucked in her wallet. Or the night she stayed out late and swore her phone died while she was with friends, only for a mutual acquaintance to post a picture that included Jason and her. Too close. Too familiar. I remember lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was just being crazy. Every time I brought up my discomfort, she'd twist it around. Why are you so insecure? Jason's just a friend, you're the one I'm marrying. And the thing is, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that love meant looking the other way sometimes. That it meant accepting parts of your partner's past, even if they didn't make sense. But it wasn't just Jason. It was the way she made me feel small in my own relationship. Every decision felt like it was hers alone. She picked the venue. She chose the theme. She told me what colors I was allowed to wear. She treated the wedding like it was her event, and I was just a guest showing up in a suit. And each time I questioned something, she'd say, "You want me to be happy, right?" I kept telling myself things would get better after the wedding. That maybe all the stress was making her act this way. That once we were married, she'd finally stop looking back at her past and start focusing on us. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew she still had feelings for him. Maybe not openly, maybe not in a way she'd admit out loud, but it was there. In her eyes. In her choices. In the way she always laughed a little louder around him. So I decided to stop hoping she'd choose me over him. I decided to take back control of my own story. And the first step? Making sure the wedding she built on lies never actually happened. The days leading up to the wedding felt like I was living inside a show I wasn't cast in. Everyone praised her for how beautiful everything looked. Her friends gushed over her dress, her Pinterest boards, and of course, how brave she was for staying so close with her ex. Jason was everywhere. Helping her rehearse the vows. Texting her late at night. Even helping her pick out what song we'd dance to as husband and wife. I kept a straight face through it all, but inside, something hollow was growing. People always say, "It's your wedding too." But it never felt like mine. It felt like I was funding a reunion party she was throwing for herself and the man she hadn't let go of. Her mom kept telling me how sweet Jason was, how lucky she was to have two such great men in her life. Every time she said that, I had to clench my jaw to keep from responding. I wasn't great to her. I was just convenient. The guy who paid the deposits, showed up on time, and kept his mouth shut. Until now. I started seeing things differently when I visited my parents a week before the wedding. My dad, quiet guy, rarely says much, looked at me after dinner and said, "You sure she's marrying you and not just dragging you into something she hasn't let go of?" It hit me hard. Not because I didn't already suspect it, but because someone finally said it out loud. That's when I decided to make a quiet exit from the show. Not in a loud, dramatic way. No yelling. No throwing rings. Just silence. Cold, controlled silence. Meanwhile, Jason had started getting too comfortable. He stayed over at her place the night before the rehearsal dinner. Because he drank too much. She didn't even try to hide it from me, just said it casually over the phone like it wasn't a big deal. He slept on the couch, she added. That was supposed to make me feel better, I guess. It didn't. Then came the rehearsal dinner. Everyone was smiling, clinking glasses, giving toasts. She sat next to Jason. I ended up across the table, next to her cousin who kept asking me if I was nervous. I looked at her sitting there, glowing, laughing, soaking it all in, and I realized something. She wasn't thinking about us. She was thinking about how perfect her night looked on Instagram. I got up from that table, walked outside, and called the florist. Told them the order was no longer needed. Called the caterer next. Then the decorator. All polite, all quiet. Nobody questioned me. I was the one paying, after all. She thought she was walking into her dream wedding. But what she didn't know was that behind the scenes, piece by piece, I was pulling the whole thing apart. And the final blow? That was still waiting for her, right at the end of that aisle. The morning of the wedding arrived with clear skies and sunshine, like the universe was mocking me. She sent a selfie in her robe, makeup half done, captioned, "Can't believe today's the day." I stared at the photo, her face full of excitement, and felt absolutely nothing. No butterflies. No nerves. Just a calm kind of emptiness. The kind you feel before a storm finally hits. Guests started arriving, all dressed up, ready to celebrate. Her family was buzzing with energy, running around the hotel lobby, making last-minute calls. I kept my distance, sitting quietly in the groom's suite, pretending to review my vows. Jason knocked on my door at one point, asked if I needed anything. He even tried to give me a pep talk like we were college buddies or something. I nodded through it, barely listening, watching him talk like he was the one walking down the aisle. Everyone thought I was just a quiet, loyal guy going along with everything. They didn't know I had already taken the keys to the venue back. Didn't know I had personally canceled the DJ, the photographer, and the shuttle buses. I made sure the guests still got emails about where to show up. I wanted them all there, just not for the reasons they thought. She was upstairs in her bridal suite when I got the text from the venue manager. All cleared out as requested. Hope everything goes smoothly. I locked my phone and looked at myself in the mirror. I still wore the tux she chose. Still had the ring in my pocket. But I wasn't the same man who agreed to stand next to her while she played pretend. Then it hit me. What would she do when she arrived? Would she cry? Would she blame the vendors? Would she call Jason first, or would she come looking for me? Part of me wanted to be there just to see her face when she realized what happened. But a bigger part of me knew I didn't need to see it to feel the satisfaction. I already knew what was coming. The cars started lining up. The guests were being seated outside, on a lawn that now had no decorations, no flowers, no chairs. Just an empty space where a perfect ceremony was supposed to be. She was still upstairs, still fixing her hair, still thinking her wedding was about to begin. Time ticked closer to the ceremony. Everyone was in place, except there was no music. No officiant. No one directing people. Some of the guests were starting to murmur, confused. Jason looked around, checking his phone. She still hadn't come down yet. That's when I slipped out the back door. No announcement. No note. Just me, walking away while the chaos began to unfold. And as I stepped into the waiting car, I took one last look at the hotel entrance, knowing she was about to walk into the moment she'd never forget. The question now was, how far would she go to fix a wedding that never existed? I thought I was done. I really believed that walking away would be enough. That letting her step into that hollow shell of a wedding would be the last chapter. But life has a strange way of making sure the story isn't over just because you want it to be. About an hour after I left, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Missed calls. Texts. A few voicemails. Some from her. Others from mutual friends. At first, I ignored them. I wasn't interested in excuses or fake tears. But then one message caught my eye. Dude, where are you? She's losing it. Jason said you sabotaged the whole wedding? That one made me stop. Jason. Of course he'd twist it. Of course he'd use the chaos to paint himself as the hero and me as the villain. Curious, I tapped into my security camera app. I had a hidden cam installed at the hotel suite weeks ago, not because I didn't trust her, but because something in my gut told me I might need the truth someday. And right now, that gut feeling was screaming. The camera activated just in time to catch her storming back into the suite, makeup smeared, veil in her hand. Jason was already there. And what I saw next almost made me laugh out loud. He was hugging her. Not a comforting friend hug, a different kind. Too close. His hand on her lower back. The kind of touch that wasn't innocent. And the worst part? She didn't stop him. Instead, she collapsed into his arms and whispered something I couldn't quite hear. But her lips moved slowly, clearly, like she'd said it before. I should have picked you. There it was. Confirmation. The puzzle pieces finally snapped into place. All this time, I thought she was just selfish, oblivious. But now I saw it for what it really was. This wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a slow-motion goodbye to me and a second chance for them. Jason wasn't just the ex. He was the backup plan. The emotional safety net. She was marrying me, but she was still with him, in every way except the one that mattered on paper. But here's where the twist came in. I wasn't the only one watching that hidden feed. I had set it to share automatically with a drive link to her maid of honor, the one who never liked Jason. Who once warned me to be careful, but never explained why. She was loyal, but not blind. And when she saw that footage, she sent it straight to her group chat, which included her mom, her sister, and worst of all, her dad. Now, instead of quietly walking away from a broken wedding, I had unintentionally lit a fuse in her entire family. They knew. Everyone knew. The wedding didn't just fall apart, it exploded from the inside. And the fallout? Oh, that hadn't even started yet. I didn't plan for the whole thing to go public. My goal was to walk away quietly, let her deal with the embarrassment, and disappear from the wreckage. But once the video started circulating in that group chat, there was no stopping it. Her father was the first to react, stern, proud, and protective. He had always liked me, maybe even more than he liked his own daughter's choices. Within minutes, he confronted her in the bridal suite. I wasn't there, but I heard about it from one of the groomsmen. Apparently, he walked in, phone in hand, showed her the footage, and simply asked, "Was it ever really about love, or were you just buying time?" She couldn't answer. Jason tried to defend her, but her dad didn't even acknowledge him. He just shook his head and left. Then her mother found out. Followed by the guests. Word spread fast, like wildfire. Some people left immediately. Others stayed out of sheer curiosity, watching the meltdown unfold like it was reality TV. The decorations were gone. The food never arrived. There was no music, no ceremony, just a crowd of overdressed people and a bride in ruins. I stayed far away from it all, thinking I'd closed the chapter cleanly. But the unexpected twist came 2 days later. I got a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, her maid of honor stood there, holding an envelope. "She wanted to give you this," she said quietly. "But she couldn't face you." Inside the envelope was a letter, handwritten, messy, clearly rushed. She apologized. Not just for the wedding. For everything. For making me feel small, for gaslighting me, for dragging Jason into our relationship like he was still hers to keep. She admitted she didn't fully realize how deep her feelings for him still were, until she saw the empty venue. Until she realized I had finally chosen me over her. She said losing the wedding wasn't what broke her, it was losing the version of me that always forgave her. The one who made excuses for her mistakes. The one who let her get away with more than she ever should have. That man was gone. And she knew it. But here's the part that hit hardest. At the bottom of the letter she wrote, "If I had been honest with myself sooner, I wouldn't have asked you to marry someone I still wasn't over. And if you had said no to Jason from the start, maybe I would have respected you more. Maybe then, I would have chosen you for the right reasons." That was the moment I realized the truth. Sometimes people don't respect what they can control. They only see value in what they have to fight to keep. And I was never a fight for her. I was the fallback. The safe option. But not anymore. And as I burned that letter later that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. The days after the cancelled wedding were strangely quiet. No more phone calls, no more drama. Her family didn't reach out again, and neither did she. It was like the entire whirlwind just stopped. I kept to myself, took a short trip out of town, and finally got some space to breathe. For the first time in months, there were no distractions, just me, figuring out what life looked like without her in it. Some of our mutual friends tried to check in. A few asked what really happened. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. The truth was already out there, and I wasn't interested in rehashing it or playing the victim. I just told them it wasn't meant to be, and left it at that. People can draw their own conclusions. I was done explaining myself. Jason apparently tried to stick around for a while, thinking he and she could pick up where they left off. But according to someone close to her family, it didn't last long. Whatever fantasy she had about rekindling their relationship crumbled the moment she realized he wasn't the man she had built up in her head. Turns out, when you lose something real, it's hard to replace it with someone you already let go of once before. I learned a lot through all of this. About her. About myself. About what love should look like, and what it definitely shouldn't. Love shouldn't feel like a competition with someone's past. It shouldn't be a constant test of how much you're willing to tolerate. And most of all, it shouldn't come with conditions like, if you really love me, you'll let me have my ex as my best man. Looking back, I see now that walking away wasn't just an act of revenge. It was a decision to protect my own peace. The cancelled venue, the silent exit, the letter, it all led to one simple truth. Sometimes you don't get the apology you want, but you still get the closure you need. Life moved on, as it always does. I got rid of the wedding photos, donated the suit, and put the ring away in a drawer I never open. I started focusing on things that made me feel alive again, hiking, reading, even going out with friends without checking my phone every 5 minutes. And slowly, without even realizing it, I started feeling like myself again. People ask if I regret saying yes to her. I don't. Because saying yes taught me when it's time to say no. It showed me that peace is worth more than pride. That love should never come at the cost of your own dignity. And if she ever thinks I overreacted, that's fine. She's allowed her opinion. But I know the truth. Sometimes, the best way to say, I do, to yourself is by walking away from someone who never really chose you at all.